Visual fidelity in modern XR headsets has reached a remarkably convincing standard. The displays track your eyes, render shadows in real time, and create environments that look entirely physical. But the second you reach out to interact with that pristine environment, the illusion shatters. Standard hand controllers cannot simulate the texture of a surface, the weight of an object, or the natural stride of your legs. Bridging that physical-digital divide requires abandoning simple controllers, and replacements demand massive friction, whether through extreme costs, heavy physical footprints, or direct biological invasiveness. Solving this interface bottleneck relies on augmenting three specific pillars of human input: dexterity, locomotion, and direct intent. Standard consumer hardware completely fails to fill these pillars. That leaves a massive functional gap for high-end enterprise, research, and medical applications, where precise input is required. Achieving true digital interaction is a matter of actively deciding which extreme hardware friction you are willing to accept to solve a specific real-world bottleneck. In the enterprise sector, the goal of a haptic glove is to simulate physical touch, object size, and resistance so learners can build true muscle memory. Devices designed for force feedback achieve this using magnetic friction brakes or pneumatic exotendons. When you grab a virtual wrench, these mechanisms physically lock your fingers in place, stopping your hand from closing. This capability requires immense friction. It comes with costs ranging from $4,000 to $15,000 a pair, and often necessitates bulky setups, like wearing a backpack that supplies continuous compressed air. An alternative approach uses vibrotactile or TENS technology. These gloves drop the heavy exotendons, relying instead on mild electrical currents and tiny motors to simulate surface textures and impact. The trade-off is clear. Vibrotactile gloves sacrifice realistic weight and physical restriction, but they gain superior biometric tracking and motion capture fidelity, making them highly attractive for developers tracking natural hand movements. This comparison matrix evaluates the top 5 enterprise gloves on the market, illustrating how the price scales directly with the actuation type and intended use case. These high-end gloves are completely unviable for general consumers, but they are necessary investments for industrial training, where a lack of physical feedback on heavy machinery could result in real-world danger. Movement presents a completely different spatial limitation. The challenge is allowing a user to walk infinitely through a virtual environment while physically confined to a small room. Software-based solutions like walk-in-place proxies or redirected walking algorithms attempt to trick the user's perception, but they frequently introduce latency and induce severe 3D motion sickness. Eliminating those software constraints requires a hardware alternative: the omnidirectional treadmill, specifically the novel HexCore MK1 system. This scale comparison chart shows how the friction of physical size is being mitigated. The HCMK1 weighs 110 kilograms and sits just 8 centimeters high, less than half the size of previous industry standards. The core mechanical innovation enabling this extreme miniaturization is the use of mirror-symmetrical spiral rollers. Inside the unit, identical servo motors power these alternating rollers via timing belts. This creates what is known as an omnidirectional velocity field. Because the wheels embedded in the rollers are set at 45-degree angles, they mechanically decompose parallel velocity speeds. They calculate a vector that instantly carries a user back to the center of the platform, no matter which direction they step. The system reacts to intended movement with only 23 milliseconds of latency. That effectively synchronizes the user's physical legs with the rendering of the VR scene. Achieving this level of precision requires an operational trade-off. The user must wear an external waist tracker to monitor their center of mass in real time. Despite the impressive miniaturization, a 110-kilogram mechanical setup means true infinite walking remains strictly for dedicated spatial labs and terrain simulation. Natural movement requires a permanent physical footprint. The final frontier of the interface bottleneck bypasses the physical friction of hands and legs entirely, moving directly to mind control. Neuralink is approaching brain-computer interfaces by moving away from external wearables and relying entirely on high-density implantation. The required friction here is biological. It involves undergoing an invasive procedure performed by their proprietary R1 robot, which inserts flexible electrode threads directly into the brain. The outcome is the wireless, high-performance control of digital devices and assistive robotics, achieving record information transfer rates straight from human thought. The trade-offs required for this capability are severe, hinging on the biological risk of brain surgery and highly complex long-term ethical concerns over data privacy. Today, this technology is strictly a medical intervention for severe paralysis, but its wireless, high-channel count approach serves as the blueprint for future human-computer interaction. Perfect frictionless digital immersion does not exist. Technology buyers have to choose their friction. This scenario match matrix breaks down the practical applications. For enterprise implementers building high-risk or complex mechanical training scenarios, force feedback gloves are the requirement. The high upfront financial and setup costs of the pneumatic and magnetic systems are justified by the retention gained through genuine physical resistance. For spatial researchers tasked with solving infinite walking inside a finite room, the HCM K1 spiral roller architecture provides the solution. When it comes to spatial orientation, heavy mechanical hardware definitively beats software algorithms in eliminating motion sickness. For medical technologists, Neuralink represents the necessary, invasive choice for restoring basic human autonomy to paralyzed patients. Tracking this brain-computer interface development is essential because it is actively bridging the gap between a medical intervention and tomorrow's consumer standard. Do not purchase advanced interface hardware searching for a use case. Identify the exact failure point of your current setup, whether that is touch, movement, or direct intent, and purchase the specific extreme friction required to solve it.